I always knew that love could be complicated, but I never imagined betrayal could feel like being stabbed in the chest with 1,000 cold, sharp lies. For years, I had built my life around him. Jake, the man I thought was my forever. He was charming, funny, and ambitious. When we met, he made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. But I see now that the way he looked at me in those early days, the warmth in his eyes, the soft way he'd hold my hand, was the same look he probably gave her. It started with small things, as these betrayals often do. Missed calls, forgotten date nights. "Work's been insane lately," he said with a sigh, always accompanied by that tired smile that used to make me want to believe him. He was staying late more often, coming home with vague stories about meetings and deadlines, and every time I asked questions, he deflected, sometimes sweetly, sometimes with irritation. "You're overthinking again, Jess." But I wasn't overthinking. I was sensing the shift, like a crack in a glass that only gets wider with time. I tried to ignore it, to keep pretending that everything was fine. I cooked his favorite meals. I sent him sweet texts during the day. I did everything I could to hold on to the version of our life I believed in, but deep down, I already knew. My gut screamed it louder than any voice in my head ever could. He wasn't working late. He was with someone else. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Thursday. He always stayed late on Thursdays. Said he had a standing meeting with the West Coast team, but something in his tone felt off, like he was too prepared with the excuse. He barely looked at me when he said it. That night after he left, I stood by the kitchen window for what felt like hours, replaying every lie he'd ever told me. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone. I wasn't even sure what I was doing, just that I couldn't sit in silence any longer. I opened his location sharing. We'd shared it years ago for safety, and I had almost forgotten it was still on. He wasn't at the office. He was halfway across town, parked outside a house I didn't recognize. I froze. My blood turned to ice. I could have stayed home. I could have sat on the couch and pretended I didn't see what I saw. But I needed the truth. I needed to see it with my own eyes, even if it shattered me completely. So I grabbed my coat, slid my feet into the first shoes I could find, and drove. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even know what I'd do when I got there. My heart pounded the entire way, my fingers gripping the steering wheel so hard they ached. Every minute felt like a countdown to the end of something I had once believed was unbreakable. When I arrived, I parked down the street. His car was right there, parked in front of the house like it belonged. There were lights on inside, and I could see movement behind the curtains. I sat there watching, hoping I was wrong. Then I saw her. She opened the door laughing, barefoot, wearing a silk robe that barely reached mid-thigh. And there he was, stepping into her arms, kissing her like he used to kiss me, like I didn't exist. In that moment, something inside me snapped, not from weakness, but from awakening. The pain was still there, yes, but beneath it, something stronger stirred, rage, clarity, and the aching need for justice. He thought he was clever, that I'd never find out, that I'd sit at home, loyal and ignorant, while he fed me lie after lie. But I wasn't going to be his fool anymore. I didn't know exactly how yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This story wasn't going to end with me crying in my car, while he played house with his mistress. No. This was the beginning. And when I was done, he'd wish he never underestimated the woman he betrayed. The morning after I saw him with her was the hardest part. He came home around midnight, quiet, as a shadow, thinking I was asleep. I kept my eyes closed, listening to him move around the bedroom like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just spent the night wrapped up in someone else. He climbed into bed, and I lay there breathing evenly, pretending everything was fine. But inside, I was breaking, splintering under the weight of what I now knew. I could smell her perfume on him, light, floral, and unfamiliar. It clung to his shirt like a mocking whisper. In the days that followed, I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I watched him, closely. Every late-night text he sent while working, every whispered phone call in the hallway. Every time, he locked his phone when I walked into the room. The truth was everywhere now. I just hadn't let myself see it before. I started noticing all the signs that had been there for months. He had become distant, less affectionate. He barely kissed me goodbye anymore. We used to laugh over dinner, watch movies together on the weekends. Now he scrolled through his phone while I ate in silence. His patience was short, his attention elsewhere. And when we did talk, It was surface level, robotic. But what hurt most wasn't the affair itself. It was how calculated he had been. He didn't just fall into someone else's arms. No. Jake had planned it, maintained it, protected it. He had built an entire lie and lived in it, while I was left holding on to the illusion of a marriage that had already died behind my back. And it wasn't just emotional, it was practical, financial. We shared everything. Our home, our bank accounts, even our future plans. We were supposed to be saving for a down payment on a new house. But now, I wondered where that money was really going. One afternoon, while he was in the shower, I checked our joint account. Stomach dropped. Thousands of dollars had disappeared in the last few months. Withdrawals, odd charges at restaurants I'd never been to, boutique hotels, ride shares in unfamiliar neighborhoods. I traced the timelines. They matched up with his late nights. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was spending our shared future on her. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the printed bank statement in my hands, my fingers shaking with rage. He thought he was so clever, that I'd never think to look, that I'd continue playing the dutiful wife while he drained our life into his secret life. But I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry. And that anger gave me clarity. I started keeping records, screenshots, receipts, notes of every lie he told. I made copies of financial documents and backed up his texts when I could, because I knew this wasn't just going to be a fight for the truth. This was going to be a battle. For my dignity, my security, and my future. I thought of the years I'd given him, the dreams we built together, the nights I cried in his arms when the world felt too heavy. I had loved him with everything I had, and he had tossed that love aside for cheap thrills and secret nights. And worse, he thought I wouldn't fight back. He didn't know who he was dealing with. What he took from me, my trust, my peace, my sense of safety, I was going to take back. And when I did, I wouldn't just expose him. I'd make sure that the life he built on lies crumbled under his feet. He wanted to play games, but I was done playing the role of the fool. I wasn't just planning to confront him. I was planning to destroy the illusion he had so carefully crafted. Because if he wanted to live a double life, then he was about to learn that lies always come with consequences, and I would be the one to deliver them. It's easy for people on the outside to say, just leave him, as if walking away is as simple as packing a bag and slamming a door. But it's never that easy. Not when your life is so deeply entangled with someone else's. Not when the betrayal affects every corner of your future. Jake wasn't just my husband. He was my partner in everything. We built a life together. We signed contracts together, planned vacations, paid bills, and made decisions with the understanding that we were a team. I had invested years, emotions, and resources into this life. And now, because of his choices, everything we worked for was hanging by a thread. Financially, I was vulnerable. Most of our accounts were joint, because that's what trust looked like. We shared credit cards, savings, and even my inheritance from my grandmother, which we agreed to use as a down payment on our next home. I never questioned the money he moved between accounts, or the business expenses he insisted would help us grow in the long term. But now I saw it all clearly. That money wasn't going toward any business ventures. It was being spent on hotel rooms and expensive dinners. I found a charge for a weekend spa resort that he told me was a corporate retreat. I even found a jewelry receipt. He had bought her a necklace from a place he knew I loved. That stung more than I want to admit. Emotionally, the damage was even deeper. Jake wasn't just someone I loved. He was the person I confided in, leaned on. And now, every memory we shared felt tainted. Every "I love you" echoed like a cruel joke in my mind. I questioned everything. Was he lying even then? Did he ever really mean it? I thought about the future I had imagined with him. Children. A family, growing old together. We had talked about baby names. We had picked out tiles for a bathroom renovation we never finished. And all along, he was planning a different life with someone else behind my back. But what made it all unbearable was the realization that he wasn't going to stop. He had grown comfortable in his deception. He thought I was too soft to fight back, too dependent to walk away. He saw me as background noise, someone who would quietly fade into the shadows while he continued his double life unchecked. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It wasn't even about revenge, not fully. It was about reclaiming my life, about protecting myself, about making sure that when I walked away, I didn't do so empty-handed, broken, and erased. Jake had built a web of lies and dragged me into it, and now I was going to untangle every thread. I wasn't going to let him walk away unscathed. He didn't get to ruin years of my life and move on without consequences. He had made calculated decisions to deceive me, to use our shared resources, for his selfish needs, and to treat me like I was disposable. That wasn't something I could forgive. That wasn't something I would ever forget. He had underestimated me, thinking I'd never look too closely, never ask too many questions. But I was asking now. I was looking. And what I found made it impossible to walk away silently. This mattered. Because he didn't just betray a wife, he tried to erase a woman who had given him everything. But I wasn't going to let him write me out of my own story. He thought he had control. He thought I wouldn't fight back. He thought wrong. Once I saw the truth for what it was, once the shock gave way to raw, determined anger, I knew I couldn't just confront him and scream. That would be too easy for him. He'd twist it. He'd gaslight me, cry, say it was a mistake. He'd play the sorry card, beg for forgiveness, and maybe even try to blame me for not being present or not understanding his stress. I knew the script by heart. And I wasn't going to play along. No, if I was going to do this, I had to do it smart, controlled, quiet. I wasn't just aiming to leave. I was aiming to take back what was mine, expose him for the fraud he was, and make sure he couldn't walk away untouched. So I started with the basics, documentation. First, I created a private cloud folder. In it, I saved every bank statement, every credit card charge, every receipt tied to his affair. I cross-referenced dates, locations, even his social media timestamps. I was methodical. If he wanted to treat this like a game, I'd play, and I'd win. Next, I reached out to a lawyer, quietly, anonymously at first, just an initial consultation. I wanted to know my rights, what I was entitled to, how to protect my assets, and what kind of evidence would help in a divorce proceeding. The lawyer was a woman, sharp, direct, and experienced in handling cases exactly like mine. She didn't just listen, she armed me. Don't confront him until you're ready to move. Collect everything. Don't tip your hand, she advised. And I listened. Then came the digital trail. I installed tracking software on our shared laptop, not to invade privacy, but to confirm what I already knew. His messages, the secret email account, the reservations he made under a fake name. It was all there. And the more I found, the more I realized just how deep the deception went. He hadn't just lied to me. He'd built an entire second life with her. That's when the plan became clear. I wouldn't just leave. I would dismantle the fantasy he'd built, piece by piece. I'd collect every shred of evidence and use it not just to protect myself in the divorce, but to expose him to the people who thought he was untouchable. His coworkers, his friends, even his family. He had introduced me to everyone as the love of his life. He made speeches at dinners about loyalty and trust. He painted himself as the perfect husband, the doting partner. But I had proof that would shatter that illusion in seconds. And I wasn't just going to reveal the truth, I was going to do it in a way that he couldn't control. I planned to file for divorce and have the papers served at his office, right in front of the colleagues he'd lied to about his happy marriage. I'd schedule it for the day after I met with the bank and froze our joint accounts, leaving him unable to siphon a single dollar more. But the final piece? That was going to be poetic. I knew the woman he was seeing. Her name was Lisa. I found her through a series of tagged photos on social media. She had no idea I existed, no idea she was the other woman. Based on what I gathered, Jake had told her he was separated. Classic. I wasn't angry at her yet, but she deserved the truth too. So I crafted a message. Calm, factual, no threats. Just screenshots, dates, financial records. I wanted her to see who she was really dealing with. If she stayed with him after that, that was on her. But she deserved to know the kind of man she was letting into her home. Every move I made wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about taking back my power. Jake thought he was in control, that I would fall apart and beg him to stay. But instead, I was building a plan that would leave him speechless, exposed, and alone. He started this game, but I was going to end it. Once I had the plan in place, it was time to put everything into motion. This wasn't a movie. There were no dramatic chase scenes or glass-shattering screams, just cold, calculated steps carried out in silence. And every step brought me closer to reclaiming control. The first thing I did was separate my finances. Quietly. I opened a new checking account in my name only, under a different bank. I rerouted my direct deposit from work to the new account. I didn't touch the joint funds, not I. Yet, I didn't want to tip him off. But I started moving forward financially, inch by inch, laying the groundwork for the day I would walk away. I also pulled my credit report. I needed to know if Jake had opened anything in my name. Thankfully, he hadn't, but I set up alerts just in case. From that point on, I kept every financial decision close to the chest. He would no longer have access to my money, my identity, or my peace. Next, I made copies of every important document: our mortgage, car titles, insurance policies, wills, and the prenuptial agreement I had once thought was symbolic. I kept physical copies at a friend's house and digital ones on an encrypted USB drive in my purse. If anything went wrong, I had proof of everything. Then came the evidence. I spent hours going through his phone backups, email activity, and social media posts. I knew his passwords. He never changed them. His arrogance made him sloppy. In one night alone, I gathered screenshots of messages with her, hotel confirmations, even a voicemail where he whispered, "I love you," to Lisa and promised to leave me soon. The image of him planning a future with someone else while sleeping in my bed made my stomach turn, but I held it together. Every time my hands shook, I reminded myself, this is for you. This is for the woman who believed in him, supported him, and was betrayed by the man she trusted most. I started logging everything: dates, patterns, behaviors. I kept a hidden journal with exact times he left, the excuses he gave, and where. He actually was based on his location tracking. I even took photos of his car parked at her house. I wasn't just gathering emotional proof, I was collecting legal ammunition. And when it was time, I took that evidence to my lawyer. She was impressed by how thorough I had been. "Most people come in here broken and confused," she said. "You came in ready for war." We filed the paperwork. Divorce on the grounds of infidelity, the kind that would stick. The kind that would leave him with no leg to stand on in court. I made sure the papers would be served at his office, during lunch hour when the floor was busiest. He wouldn't just be caught off guard, he'd be publicly humiliated. But before that day came, I sent the message to Lisa. It wasn't cruel. It was honest. I explained who I was, how long Jake and I had been married, and how long he'd been cheating. I included screenshots and copies of hotel receipts that overlapped with dates he had supposedly been separated. I told her I didn't blame her, only that she deserved to know the truth. She replied an hour later, a single line. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry." I believed her. The shock in her message felt real, and honestly, I wasn't even angry with her anymore. She, like me, had been lied to. The true villain here was Jake, the man who manipulated two women into living in the shadows of his deceit. In those final days before the confrontation, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stayed calm, collected, and focused. Jake had taken enough from me. He wasn't going to take my dignity, too. I rehearsed what I would say when the time came. Not a tirade, not an emotional meltdown, just the truth, delivered like a dagger. Because when people build empires of lies, all it takes is one strike of truth to bring the whole thing crashing down. And I was ready to strike. The day the papers were served, the sky was clear, almost poetic, considering the storm I was about to unleash. I had arranged everything down to the minute. Jake would be at the office for a client lunch. The server would walk in with a manila envelope marked confidential, and his carefully curated life would start to crumble, right in front of his coworkers, the ones he always boasted to, about our perfect marriage. That morning, I woke up before him and looked at him one last time. Not the man I fell in love with, but the man he had become. A liar, a manipulator, someone who wore masks so convincingly that even I, for a time, believed in them. I didn't say a word. Just got dressed, grabbed my folder of evidence, and left before he opened his eyes. I sat in my car outside the office building, a block away, watching the minutes tick by. At exactly 12:32 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from the process. Server delivered. The weight I'd been carrying for months lifted, not all at once, but enough to breathe again. Jake called me 10 minutes later. I let it go to voicemail. Then again, and again. Finally, I answered on the fourth ring, calm as glass. "Jess," he said, his voice panicked. "What the hell is going on?" "You tell me," I replied. "Though I think Lisa might beat you to it." Silence, the kind that drips with guilt and confusion and the realization that the walls are closing in. "What did you do?" he asked, but it was breathless, as if he already knew. I told the truth. You should try it sometime. Then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to him directly. The fallout came quickly. Lisa dumped him. From what I heard through mutual friends, she moved out of the city not long after. His company placed him on administrative leave pending an investigation, because, as it turned out, some of the business expenses he charged on the company card were related to his affair. Apparently, they take that sort of thing seriously when you're in upper management. He tried to get sympathy from friends and family, but no one was buying it. I hadn't just told them the truth, I showed them. Screenshots, receipts, the timeline. They saw the web of lies for what it was. One friend told me, he always acted like he had it all figured out. Guess he figured wrong. And me? I started to breathe again. The divorce proceedings went smoothly. He didn't fight. He couldn't. The evidence, I had made sure of that. I got the house. I got my share of the savings, what was left of it. I reclaimed my name, my independence, and the peace he tried to take from me. People think karma is some mystical force that shows up when the stars align. But I've learned that sometimes karma wears your face. Sometimes justice isn't about waiting. It's about acting. I wasn't the same woman who used to wait by the window for him to come home. I wasn't the one who excused his lies, who bent herself in half to make him comfortable. That woman was gone, and in her place stood someone sharper, wiser, unafraid. Was it painful? God, yes. Betrayal leaves scars in places you don't even know exist. But pain isn't the end. It's the fire that forges something stronger. And I had walked through the fire. Jake had every chance to come clean, to be honest, to end things before they got this ugly. But he chose deception. He chose betrayal. And when people make those choices, they also choose the consequences that follow. He told me he was working late. He thought I'd never know. He thought I'd never act. He was wrong. About everything. Now I sleep alone, but peacefully. I wake up to quiet, not lies. And when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who didn't just survive betrayal. She dismantled it, burned it down, and walked away with her head held high. That's not revenge. That's justice.